All right, let's stay with the issues around the fuel levy. The economic freedom fighters have filed court papers, this in a bid to halt the proposed fuel levy increase. And of course, in his budget speech last week, Minister Godongwana announcing a fuel levy increase which would take effect from the 4th of June. Let's now speak to EFF's Treasurer General, Omphile Maotwe, who's joining us this evening. Omphile, good evening to you and thank you so much for your time. So I was going through your court papers. What is at the core of your argument?
Good evening to you, Bongiwe, and the viewers of SABC at home. What is at the core of our argument is the procedure in which the minister wants to introduce the fuel levy. So according to the Constitution, Section 77 of the Constitution is very clear. If you want to introduce a national tax, you have to follow the Money Bills Act. And if you go to the Money Bills Act, it's very explicit in terms of how the minister or the executive can introduce a national tax. It says that the minister would come and table his fiscal framework and revenue proposals, which then becomes a product of parliament and has to follow the parliamentary process. Now, the minister is making the same mistake he did when he attempted to introduce the VAT levy. It's not a behavioral issue which requires a regulation in the form of a government gazette or a notice. It is a national tax that is going to apply to everybody. It's a general tax that has got general application to everybody, whether you are rich, you are poor, you are wealthy or not. And that then says that it has to follow Section 75 of the Constitution. What we are seeing the minister doing is an attempt to want to introduce it through a regulation, and is following a completely wrong constitutional court ruling. So there are two rulings at the moment from the Constitutional Court which gave him the powers to regulate. One is the case of Mark Shuttleworth, where the court saw to it that because Mark wanted to remove some money from South Africa to other countries, the minister can regulate a fee to that effect, which we saw 10% levy being payable. The second one is the issue with the New Africa, where there was an issue with the duty-free alcohol and cigarettes at the airports. That also is a behavioral issue. You are addressing a behavior, and therefore you can bring a regulation in the form of a notice or a government gazette. But this one is a consumption-based tax where it applies uniformly to everybody. It's not your choice when you were to wake up in the morning and go to work. It's not your choice if you fall sick and the ambulance has to come and fetch you from home and take you to hospital. It requires that the national tax that gets to be introduced in the form of a fuel levy, then which will cut across all logistical chain, value chain, across all sectors of the economy, across all social groups. And therefore, that can be passed through a regulation or an amendment. So it has to go through Money Bills Act, which, because it's a revenue that the government seeks to achieve in terms of their budget that was presented by the minister.
So it sounds like, as you say, it's a procedural issue, right? And one wonders, though, if the court does agree with you in this particular matter, let's say, for example, does it now mean that we may potentially need to look at budget 4.0?
It's not only a procedural issue, it's a constitutional issue. So the minister does not have the powers. He's an executive, he's a member of the executive. He does not have, it will be an overreach on the side of the minister to want to dictate to the legislature what the legislature needs to do. Mm-hmm. He is the part of the executive. He tabled the budget, which no longer belongs to him now. It's a product of the legislature and government. The parliament needs to take the process forward through a legislative process. And what worries us more, I'm going to answer your question just now, but what worries us more is when he even gives a date to it. He says on the 4th of June, the fuel levy will go up. But what will be happening in terms of parliamentary program? On the 3rd and the 4th of June, we are deliberating on the budget that he has tabled as the Standing Committee on Finance and other related committees of Parliament. At that time, the budget has not been passed. So we will deliberate. We've been having stakeholder engagement. We will deliberate on Tuesday and Wednesday and agree as the committee whether we are adopting the fiscal framework and revenue proposal or we are amending it. And it will only come back to Parliament, to National Assembly on the 11th of June to be voted, whether we are agreeing with the minister or not. But by that time, even when we will be deliberating as the committee, the fuel levy would have gone up. And that is where our problem is. Now, coming to your question of if the court agrees with us, the court will agree with us because it's the same process that you went through during the VAT increase saga, if you remember very well.
Yeah.
The exact same process. And that's why when we started our deliberations in Parliament, after they came to the committee, we said to him, you are replacing the VAT increase with fuel increase using the same process that got us to where we are. I can guarantee you, Bongiwe, that on the 4th of June, there will not be a fuel levy increase. And once there's no fuel levy increase, it means the minister has to come and table a new budget. Why? Because according to the Parliament has got the duty to make sure that there's a balance between revenue, expenditure, and the borrowing. Those three things need to be aligned. And that is what is being tabled by the minister at the moment. When he says the budget for this year is so many trillions, he has counted in the revenue that he would have achieved or received from the fuel levy. Now, once the court says, but you can't do that, it means he has to go back to the drawing board and retable a new budget that would not have factored in the revenue that would be he's expecting to get fuel levy. I can tell you now, he doesn't have answers. We wrote him a letter on Monday, which he acknowledged on Tuesday morning. To this day, when you and I are speaking now, it's 1942. The minister has not responded to our letter. So is the chairperson of the committee, so is the speaker, because they don't have answers. The minister is attempting to tap into a territory where he doesn't have powers, and those powers lies squarely with the legislature.
And this is a race against time, right? July is around the corner. If there are all these particular, corners that are now, curveballs as far as this particular budget and the process is concerned, are you then envisioning that the budget, in fact, the deadline of July will be met here, or can we see a different process now needing to ensue?
We want the budget to pass. We don't want to stall anything. But all we are putting on the table is that it can't be at the expense of our constitution. It can't be at the expense of our democracy. Parliament is the highest body that regulates, that makes the law in this country. It can't be the same parliament now that is not going according to the law, that is just trampling on the law. We have to follow the law to the letter. And that's why our question to the minister was, where do you derive the powers? Show us which piece of legislation that enables you to do what you are doing. And we will not agree with the minister to just overlook the powers that are enacted through acts of laws, different legislations that are on the table that have been put on the table, which the minister is ignoring. It will be very painful, really. Actually, it's even painful now for us to go through this process, which is so unavoidable, it's so unnecessary, for as long as the minister can follow the law. The minister does not have powers, and he knows that. That is why to this day, he has not responded to our letter. It will be very sad for us to find ourselves end of July, one man failing to table the budget successfully 4 times. I mean, really, it's beyond. You can't fail a grade 4 times, and we're still hoping that anything else will come out of it. We thought because he failed first, second, and third, he was going to do the right thing this time around.
Just before I let you go, when is your matter being heard?
It's going to be heard on Tuesday, the 3rd of June, 2024. And that's why we tabled it now, because as things stands, the minister has not even issued that gazette. So we are running out of time. We gave him 48 hours. He has not responded to our letter. Right. He has not gazetted anything. He has not put forward the notice. We could not wait any longer, because if we had waited and the minister only releases the gazette on Monday, because we've been following up with his office, and the office says what we have at the moment is a memo but the Gazette is not yet there. So you can't wait for Monday and then want to put court into a corner to say, here our matter, when we could see clearly that the minister is really playing us against time. Time is not on our side. We had no other option but to take the matter to court for the court to assist us.
All right, let's see what happens in court. Thank you so much for your time this evening. And of course, it is going to be interesting to even read some of the papers there that can then be filed by the minister. But thank you, Omphile, for your time. That was the EFF Treasurer General, Omphile Maotwe. And the matter now on the 3rd of June, that is next week Tuesday, will be heard in court. And this is around the fuel levy increase and the Economic Freedom Fighters raising their issues there and filing court papers in a bid to halt the increase in fuel levies. So we'll continue then to bring installments as well as much reaction to this particular story.